We are continuing on Hilchot Shabbat, and we started last week the halachot of tzad. Now, we mentioned that we're going to speak about the pets, home-raised animals, whether they're chickens, chicks, birds, and other pets. What is considered tzad for them? Because that's really the most commonly found scenario when we have pets at home and we want to put them in their cage at night or during the day and it's questionable whether or not you could do it. So it says the halacha, if you have ducks, you have chickens that you own and you basically raised, they're comfortable at home and this is their place, mutar letzudan, you could catch them, meaning you could trap them, right? Catching them by itself is a different question of muktzeh, but imagine you want to guide them to the enclosure, to the cage, and close the door, thereby trapping them. Because they are accustomed to go back anyways to their cage, that's where their food is, that's where their water is, that's where their living quarters are. And they are accustomed to going back in that place. They're considered already trapped. Even though that there's a whole backyard, there's a whole place that they're running around, but to corner them in that cage and close the door is not considered a tzad. And if they get out of the cage and now they're in the backyard and you see the door of the backyard to the street is open, so if you don't close that door, they may get into the street, and then it's going to become much more difficult to get them. They get lost, they get eaten. So it's mutar to close the door of the backyard, even though that in a normal sense, if, for instance, if you had like a wild deer wander into your backyard, it would be asur to close the door, because that would be the act of tzad, depending on how big your backyard is and so on. But here is not going to be a problem because they are nisodin vomdim, they're considered entrapped already in your house to begin with. And following that, again, this would be same with depending on what type of the birds are. I had a friend that every Motzai Shabbat he had parrots, right? Every Motzai Shabbat he would open their cage, and they would sit. There's three of them, and they were like already used to it from childhood, from when they were little. One of them would come fly around. They would fly around for a minute or two. As soon as he would start Havdalah, one of them would sit on his right shoulder, the other one would sit on his left shoulder, the other one would sit on his head or on his hand. I don't remember exactly how it was, but that was like a scene to watch. But at the same time, they're those well-trained birds, even though that they're not chickens and avazim, they will be considered also entrapped. But again, finches and other things that you have, usually they're not the same. If they get out of the cage, they fly away, and that's that. So that's not considered the same as your homegrown chickens. Now, porsim machzeret al gabe kaveret shel devor. If you have beehives and you're growing, you're growing hives and you're producing honey and so on and so forth. So you want to put a mat. Imagine you're going to put a bamboo mat on the hive because it's too hot. You want to kind of create a shade for them, but by doing that, or for instance, it's raining and you don't want the rain to get into the hive, you want to cover it up. And by doing this, you're kind of like blocking off all of the exits of the hive, and now the bees cannot get out. So you are creating an entrapment for them, and that would normally be tzad, right? But the only difference is your kavanah really is not for tzad. You don't care about, they are in your hive. This is your beehive, and you are not in need of trapping them. You just want to protect them from sun, from the geshamim. So it's mutar to do that so long as your kavanah is not to trap them. In other words, it's not that I'm not understanding the entire chokhmah of raising a thing, how the queen and the hive and moving them and so on. Sometimes you want to trap them there, and that would not be mutar on Shabbat. But if you are simply protecting them from sun, from the rain, and you have no intention of entrapment, so then that would be mutar. And also, we have just a second. One more requirement is that it should not be pesky. What does that mean? It means it's not for sure that they are trapped. You still leave a little hole, little corner somewhere that's open, that technically speaking, a bee could get out from one of the openings and get out from that hole, that crack, even though that makes it much harder for them, but technically speaking is possible, so therefore this makes it that's no longer pesky. It's not for sure that they are going to be entrapped, so therefore that would be mutar, right? Sorry, what?
If there's a mosquito in the bed,
we got to get to those. I mean, this is, let's discuss that actually right now. This was for things that usually are trapped. Their type is trapped. People trap bees because it's a whole massive multi-million-dollar business. It's not, by the way, the business is more for fertilization than it is for the honey itself. Like, people who have fields of fruit trees, they actually rent for exorbitant amounts for companies to bring beehives and plant them in their fields in the springtime when things are blossoming, and them going from tree to tree, from blossom to blossom, actually makes the fruits. It fertilizes the trees and so on. So that is something that people trap. But flies, fleas, mosquitoes, all those things are not the same level of the oraita. But let's talk about it. Zevuvim ve'yatushim paroshim. If you have flies, you have mosquitoes, you have all those pests, so to speak. Hatzad otan beShabbat patur. If a person actually traps them, takes a trap and traps them, you will be patur midoraita, right? That's the Rabbanan. It will be still asur, but it's patur midoraita because ho'il ve'en beminam nisod, because their type is not trapped. It's not something that people do. Umikol makom still is going to be asur the Rabbanan, and imagine if you have, let's say, a box, and you open the box to take something out, and then a bunch of flies get in, or for that matter, you're going to put the garbage, and you want to close the top of a garbage bin, thereby trapping now all the flies that's inside. Yesh omrim she'asur liskor et hateva. There are those who say it's asur to close it, even though that you don't really care about the bugs that are inside. You don't really care about the flies that are inside. Your kavanah is not to keep them away and to trap them there, right? Still would be asur. There are those who say because it's pesky, because for sure when you close the door, they're going to be stuck there, right? And they hold that pesky, even with Rabbanan, is going to be asur. And there are those poskim who say no, it's mutar. Pesky with Rabbanan would be mutar in this case. Now, what's the halacha? The halacha is lechatchila, a person should be machmir. Hamekel yesh lo al ma lismoch. It's tov lachmir. It should be lechatchila machmir to first, shoot them away and then close the box to the degree that's possible, at least. Parosh al besaro. And if you have a mosquito that's on your flesh in the middle of doing his procedure of sucking blood, and you want to get rid of it, so can you just pick it up and throw it away? And the halacha is it's mutar. It's mutar to take it and throw it away. This is actually the Tosafot say this in Masachet Shabbat Daf Yud Zayin. It's a whole sugya by itself, but nevertheless, you cannot kill it, right? You cannot kill it. It's mutar to it's mutar to take it away and save yourself from the bug bite. Now, if you put this sprays that kills the bugs, and you want to spray some, to
Easy off.
right, not easy off, but I think it's called something kills the bugs. So you want to spray that, and they're gonna die. Is that mutar or not? You're killing them on Shabbat, basically. So Chabadia has a heter that if you leave a window open, so they're not for sure you could just be very bothered from the chemical and just run out. They don't have to die, right? They could quickly get out and survive. So it's not for sure that they're going to die. The ones who stay, obviously they're going to die. This is mutar. Now, that being said, you can't go next to the bug and spray on it, right? That you cannot do because that for sure is going to kill it. But you can spray in the air and leave one window open. This way, the ones who go out, the ones who don't, they'll die, and that's fine, right? Because no pesky that they're going to die. They could technically get out. But you shouldn't do it again, as we said, on the bugs, because that would become too direct of an action. So this basically finishes the discussion of flies and mosquitoes. But if you have a bee in your room, right? So you have a bee in your room. Now we spoke about beehives, but people are very scared when the bee comes to their thing, to the suuda, and everyone gets very scared. So that's a machloket poskim. There are those who say that because bees usually are kept very carefully because we use them for production and it's a whole business, so it's certainly considered miminam nisod. It's a type that is trapped, and therefore, if you trap them, they're going to be isudoraita. On the other hand, there are those who say this is not really beminam nisod, and therefore it will be patur midoraita, only asur midrabanan, right?
Doesn't matter if you're trapping just to release.
Doesn't matter, because at the moment that you trap it, you're trapping it, right? Now, well, that's a overly simplified answer. Okay, so we're going to touch on something very similar to that, hopefully soon. But that's the overly simplified answer. And the same machloket, by the way, exists for grasshoppers as well. Is grasshoppers something that people miminam nisod, or they're not miminam nisod? That becomes a machloket again, depending also on the place that you are. So in many African countries, for instance, people actually eat them still today until today. That's their the chocolate covered grasshoppers and baked grasshoppers and all kinds of different snacks with grasshoppers and so on. Others grow them for protein supplements and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's not for discussion right now, but dvorim and chagavim are considered machloket, and again we have already explained what the difference is, if it's doraita or darabanan, when it comes to the halachot af pesky reshe. Now this basically concludes the basics of the tzad. Now we have to talk about setting up traps from before Shabbat, on Shabbat, and so on and so forth, which is the topic that we're going to discuss in the next shiur, Baruch Hanoten Chaim, and we'll continue that tomorrow morning. Chazak u'beruch.